Out this weekend on the No Lift Esports Network and the Flatout Racing Network.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to the season finale here for the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. 4 drivers enter into this desert speedway of Phoenix, and only one will be leaving with the title of champion. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer, and Sam, 150 laps await us. 4 drivers, as mentioned, going to be taking to this track, trying to be the highest finisher to take that championship home. What kind of strategy do you have to have coming into a slick track like this?
Yeah, I mean, this strategy right now for these drivers looking like it's going to be based off of fuel for these drivers. Going to be aiming around the halfway marker as far as they can go fuel-wise, but tires is where things get a little bit interesting to see. We might see some drivers trying the one-stop or two-stop strategy, but right now all eyes are going to be on David Santini and Logan Helton, the only drivers of the Final Four to have wins coming into this week. But the car that's on top of the board, that's Evan Longacre, last car to qualify into this series.
And remember, we touched on this last week after the Final Four were put together. Evan Longacre was the highest finishing of the 4 championship contenders when we were here at Phoenix, the different configuration, but at this racetrack earlier on this season.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers really adapt throughout this season. I mean, the rest of this race, as pace car rolls off. It's time to figure out who's going to be our champion here in the Rapid Fire National Series.
Longacre starting on point, Santini second, Helton third, Meyer will start back in 6th. That's where your championship for. Everybody else in the field, they just want to go to victory lane to finish out the season, as Longacre will edge ahead by about a car length and a half off of 2.
David Santini, Logan Helton side by side still as they march from the apron back onto the racing surface, and that's going to be something we see all race long. The drivers that decide to go on the apron and those that decide to just stay on the racing surface.
Yeah, some drivers will try it down there in the dogleg on the apron. Other drivers may also venture down the apron in 3 and 4 as Logan Helton putting the pressure on Evan Longacre. Had to give up a little bit of ground there going into turn 1, but looks like he's really good over in 3 and 4.
Yeah, right now we're going to keep our eyes out on seeing how Logan Helton wants to adapt here. During practice, fastest car during practice was Logan Helton in that 8 machine. The second car fastest during practice was going to be David Santini, then Longacre, and then Jeffrey Meyer. So during practice, our final 4 of the fastest 4 cars. The question is, though, who has the long run setup? Because it seems like all season long, if you got the best long run setup, you're the driver to beat all race long.
Got a car that's dropping towards the back. That is Cole Hooper stuck in that outside line. He lost a spot to Kevin Roy. Matt White's now going around him. Barry Stevens doing the same. So that 00 starting to drop back. But, you know, this is really strange to be seeing Evan Longacre up front early. The reason for that is this is not what we're used to seeing. Normally, he ends up having a long run car, works his way from about the latter half of the top 10 up into the top 5. But starting on the pole here and right now trying to pull away, this is forcing him, because in the championship battle, to step away from the strategy that he's used all season long.
Yeah, it hasn't worked all season for him to get a win, and if you're really, it's looking like you're going to need to win this race if you're going to be the driver that wins the championship. And we're seeing it right now with all 4 drivers hunting for this championship in the top 5. Jeffrey Meyer back in 5th place. He's losing pace with our leaders at the moment as our top 4 are pulling away.
On board with the 38 of Jeffrey Meyer. There you see the top 4 up ahead of him. Jeffrey Meyer with a Budweiser sponsorship here for the season finale. Currently running in the 5th position. He still can see the race leaders, but I don't necessarily know if this is a race where you are a championship competitor if you want to go into the tire conservation mode, because it just kind of seems you've got to keep yourself up there in the vicinity with your other 3 championship competitors.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing that all season long, really. I mean, back at Iowa, it was our final 3 that stayed on the lead lap because of how fast they were running and the lack of yellows that came out. It's similar that we could be seeing the same thing here at ISM, is a lack of cautions coming out for these drivers. With a smaller field of only 12 drivers, it's going to be really a battle of who can be up front and who can stay up front. And I think that's a great choice by Evan Longacre right now to try to pull away. But you're starting to see the tire difference as they start to we were seeing Longacre pull away. Now we're starting to see the BJ McLeod machines of Logan Helton and David Santini running down the 10 machine.
Looking at the 4th place driver, this is a non-championship contender in Tom Laneville, but certainly he would love to finish out the season with a victory, and already we're only 7 laps in, saw him get a little bit slideways out of turn 4. Not a lot of banking here at Phoenix. Of course, we're out in the desert of Phoenix, Arizona, so the track's going to be slick. That's something these drivers are going to have to think about if this goes into a long green flag run in terms of those tires wearing down and the lack of grip on corner exit.
Yeah, when we started this race, track temp was 77 degrees. It's gone up 1 degree since then, and due to the fact that we are in the desert, the sun's beating down on this track. We'll see if any clouds come in, but this track is just going to get hotter and slicker as the race goes on.
Right now, Longacre enjoying about a 0.3 of a second advantage over Logan Helton, then another 0.3 back to David Santini, who's under fire from Tom Laneville, going to get at least alongside the door. Contact!
Santini goes around yellow. First hill comes out, and Jeffrey Meyer had to avoid the 99 there.
Boy, that was a close call between 2 championship competitors as Jeffrey Meyer barely was able to turn to the right to avoid the back of the 99. But David Santini, you can see a little bit of damage there on the left side of his machine after contact between himself and the 18 of Tom Laneville, and Santini was running 3rd at the time.
Just, coming over the radio immediately was the 18 saying, "I'm so sorry about that." Just trying to apologize because that's a non-top 4 contender hitting one of our favorites really coming into tonight, and that's some damage that the 99 is going to have to deal with, but luckily it's right on the side. Not only quarter panel damage for the 99 and able to save from hitting anybody or anything else was Santini. But man, early in this race to be seeing heavy race contact as drivers into the pits, expecting some of these drivers that are coming in just to come in for fuel this time around.
We saw it happen live, and even going back and looking at the replay, I kind of jumped out of my seat there watching the avoidance of Jeffrey Meyer in the 38 getting around the spinning 99 of David Santini. I mean, it's hard to really explain just how close that was. Hopefully this onboard will give you an idea of how easily we could have been down to 2 championship competitors still in the hunt for this title.
Yeah, and the main thing, though, is a good thing that the caution came out, which allowed Santini to still stay with the drivers up front. But most likely, we're going to be seeing some drivers go with 4 tires here, and that's what we're going to be seeing actually from the 3 contenders that came out of the pits. It's going to be Evan Longacre, Logan Helton, and Santini all came in, got tires, a little bit of damage repair for the 99 machine, but Jeffrey Meyer staying out in our leader at the moment.
This is interesting because we're only 11 laps into this race. Jeffrey Meyer, one of those championship 4, and we saw that he didn't quite seem to have the launch off pace that his other 3 competitors for this championship had. Could be strategy to be able to try and save an extra set of tires towards the end of this race. These drivers are going to have 4 sets available to them. So, and he's not going to get any bonus points for leading the lap. It's going to be between these 4, whoever finishes the highest. No bonus points come into play in this one. So I think this is more trying to preserve a set of tires for later on in this race than anything else.
And I think that's a great call by Jeffrey Meyer to stay out, try a different strategy out, just based on the fact that he was losing time on our front 4. It's better for him to just get up front, try to save that set of tires, just in case we start having late cautions coming in. 2 drivers did come in the first time by and actually missed their pit stalls. That's going to be Tom Laneville as well as Aaron Tyner, and Tyner came in the second time around to get tires and fuel, and we'll be starting at the end of the line as right now we have a total of 4 drivers up front have not pitted yet.
Laneville missed his stall, but he will stay out here, restarting in 4th position. Cole Hooper and Kevin Roy went with 2 tires, and Logan Helton and Evan Longacre, who were 1st and 2nd on that first run, they're restarting back in traffic in 7th and 8th place.
We'll have to wait and see with Logan Helton and Longacre. They're going to be the first drivers really with fresh 4 tires. How well can they get through the field here, and how chaotic is it going to be as Jeffrey Meyer pulls away, but it is really a hornet's nest behind them.
Yeah, Logan Helton had the advantage of being on the inside line, so he got ahead of Evan Longacre, now up to 5th, looking for 4th on Laneville. Longacre in the 10 right behind him. And then you see David Santini in the 99 making forward progress as well. Right now, the 3 that were running 1, 2, 3 prior to that caution coming out are now running in 4, 5, and now 6.
Yeah, and really, these drivers that are Final 4 that are racing for this championship, they're not going to be safe really anywhere at any point during this time. I mean, looking back later in the playoffs, I mean, at Bristol, we saw some heavy favorites of Logan Helton and Santini get caught up in a wreck with the lap machine. So if we go on a long green flag run, there's still that looming potential as really pushing Barry Stevens out of the way was Evan Longacre, recognizing, hey, he's got to get up and he has to stay with Logan Helton.
Helton now going to try and go around the outside of Jeffrey Meyer for the race lead. So far, 2 of our Championship 4 have led laps today. Helton looking to be the 3rd. He's got that momentum on the outside. He's got the fresh rubber, and he'll go to the point.
Logan Helton now going to be trying to use Jeffrey Meyer kind of as a blocking tool to try to hold off Evan Longacre, who's on the same tire strategy as the 8 at the moment. Santini, who was involved with that incident with the 18 bringing out our first caution, still running in 4th place and running very similar lap times as our front 4 and trying to carry that forward.
Side-by-side battling back there for the 6th position. That's Matt White in the 11, Barry Stevens in the 78. Stevens getting eliminated from the playoffs last week, as well as the 4 of Kevin Roy running behind him in 8th place. Up towards the front, though, looks like the battle's going to be for 2nd place. Longacre to the bottom. Jeffrey Meyer going to be stuck on the top side with those older tires. No contest, as he'll not only lose 2nd, he'll lose 3rd to David Santini.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Meyer, the way his tires are looking, he might even lose this position here to Matt Knight. And in that 0-1 machine of Matt Knight, he's trying to have a very solid finish here for the final race of the season. Maybe try to carry this forward into next season. I mean, at this moment, it's really carrying that momentum for the non-4 drivers hunting for the championship. As Jeffrey Meyer trying to block kind of in a way, running as low as he can through the apron.
Remember, we heard from both Evan Longacre and Jeffrey Meyer last week. It's basically got to be Chevy versus Toyota for this championship. The Chevrolet drivers working together this week. You have to wonder how much information was being passed between Colleague Racing and RSS Racing to try and make sure that a bow tie is going to be winning this championship.
Yeah, I mean, there had to be some type of communication coming around. I mean, Jeffrey Meyer, we've seen have very good qualifying pace and really good pace at the start of these runs. Later on, the 38 seems to fade off. It's really just been coming into tonight's race. It really was the thought of, is this just between the 8 of Logan Helton and the 99 of David Santini, both drivers from the BJ McLeod crew, and they were just been so dominant all season long, both of them with 8 wins this season, and no one else was even close to having that many wins compared to those 2 drivers.
It's interesting if you look at our final 4 coming into this race, because Logan Helton, David Santini, 8 wins apiece. The other 2 drivers, Evan Longacre and Jeffrey Meyer, are former champions. So, you've definitely got 4 top caliber drivers trying to duke it out here this evening for the championship. Right now, though, it's looking like a 3-horse race. Jeffrey Meyer back there in the 4th position. But again, we have to continue to reiterate the fact that he's, at this point in time, got 1 extra set of tires he'll be able to use against the other 3 should we end up having a late race yellow.
Yeah, and right now, just looking at drivers that are trying to make their way forward, are some of the drivers, like Aaron Tyner in that 51 machine, had to start all the way back in 12th place. He's moved up now to 8th place. A pretty good run for this 51 machine. But really up front, it's between our top 3 that are all within 5/10 of one another. And David Santini looks like he's got it done following the 10. He might be trying to make a move here on Longacre soon.
It's all right there, going through 3 and 4, straddling the yellow line. The left side's on the left side of the yellow line, the right side's on the right side of the yellow line, trying to run a little bit lower, trying to make it a little bit shorter around the racetrack, trying to close up on the back bumper of the Rapid Fire Pizza Chevrolet. Looks a little lower there, going through the back straightaway dogleg. That battle for second, now less than half a car length between those two.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. I mean, we're used to seeing Hilton and Santini on top of one another, but like you stated, this is so odd to be seeing Longacre up front, and you can tell he has put a lot of time and effort, and the team as a whole, a lot of time into getting this car set up for this race. But here comes the side-by-side pass here, possibly for second place. Santini pushing up the 10 of Longacre, and they're still side-by-side coming through 3 and 4.
Longacre not going to give up that easily as Santini trying to get the inside line to work. Car tightens up a little bit on entry, though, when you're running that inside line, which I think led to the contact we saw with our first caution between Santini and Tom Laneville. So if you're going to run that inside line and try and make the pass, you've got to be very careful that your car is set up to be able to rotate through the center of the corner and not push up straight.
Yeah, and this is an open setup league, so these drivers have the choice and also the ability to make adjustments under pit road just in case the setup that they brought in here for today just isn't turning the way they want, to make those adjustments in pit lane.
How about the 0-1 of Matt Knight there out of JD Motorsports? We don't talk about him much during the season because he's usually running in the mid-pack area. Right now, solidly up inside of the top 5. A lot of that probably contributed to the fact that he came down pit road, took on 4 fresh tires under that caution, but en route for what's looking like his best finish of the season.
Yeah, if things continue the way they are, it's looking like that for this 0-1 machine. Just has to continue on with the pace that he's got and looking very good at the moment. As a battle that's side by side at the moment, battle for 7th place is Laneville able to get by Barry Stevens.
Stevens in the 78 car, the 3rd driver out of BJ McLeod Motorsports, coming off a win this season during the playoffs that advanced him into the round of 8. Really pushed up there on the inside of turn 3 as Laneville starts pulling away in the 18 car. Another car just ahead of him having a good run here tonight is the Colleague Racing number 11 of Matt White. We've seen Matt White intermittent in certain weeks, always seems to be a contender up at the front. Last couple of starts we've seen him though struggle, so nice to see him having a solid outing right now in the 6th position. And that's another thing that's huge if you're someone like Evan Longacre out of Colleague Racing, Logan Helton and Santini out of BJ McLeod Motorsports, or Jeffrey Meyer out of RSS Racing, is you've got teammates you can lean on as well. If you're not certain about being able to get a little bit more speed in a certain area, you can go to one of your teammates. Hey, how are you being able to approach this corner? How can I make an adjust to make my car a little bit better? So just the constant transferring of information has to be helpful for these drivers being on teams.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And these are the races when it's coming to the end of the season where, like you said, you need to lean on your teammates to get that information, get the help that you need. As right now, watching the battle for 2nd place, as both Longacre and Santini, that last lap got a little loose out of 1, and this time around, both looking very solid that time. But it's odd to see both of them have been kind of getting a little bit out of shape, just slightly with a wiggle in their back ends out of 1. About 3 out of the 5 laps that we have just ran.
See Santini when he runs down there all the way to the inside wall through the dogleg on the back straightaway. He's doing it perfectly because it's very difficult when you're at ISM to run down there on the apron, then get your car up high and wide enough to the outside wall to approach turn 3 and 4. Normally, if you enter it in too low, that car is just going to shoot up the racetrack. But you see, he goes right up there against the wall, able to drive it deep into the corner. So Santini has found the ideal line of making it around ISM and making the best lap times. However, Longacre's not traversing quite that far down there, and he's still able to have the pace to hold Santini off.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that's going to be hurting these drivers when you go down onto the apron during the backstretch is the fact that your car does wiggle from that transition from the racing surface and then up to onto the apron and then back on. Is if you don't hit it right with the right angle moving up and down, you actually can make your car shake and bounce way more. That can make you lose and almost go out of control. And we're starting to see drivers, they're doing a great job at what they're doing. Also, back in the middle of the field, looks like Tom Laneville as well as Matt White made a slight contact about 3 laps ago that almost put White into the outside wall, but right now staying green and still running as strong as they can.
A little more contact there going into turn 1 between White and Knight, the 0-1 and the 11, as Laneville made his way around the both of them and has now cracked back into the top 5. I want to go back to a point you were just making there about the cars bouncing and shaking with that transition of the banking on the back straightaway down to the apron area. Any concern that maybe you hit hard enough and end up with some suspension problems here?
No, the bouncing isn't as aggressive as if they were running through like any mile and a half of going through the grass. That one is a lot more of a more aggressive transition that your car bounces and actually goes airborne slightly and comes back down. This is more just a shimmy and a shake coming across the apron and onto the racing surface. It's not hurting the suspension wise, but it is something that can affect your steering and make your car a little light at times. Just something to watch out for.
Well, Longacre and Santini have not let Logan Helton get away. The gap right now about 0.6 of a second from first back to second place. At the same time, however, they're not really closing in, and usually what we end up doing around this point, Sam, is we take a look at the telemetry of the laps they are turning now as opposed to the laps they were turning on fresh tires, and it's looking like fresh tires versus old tires, there's about maybe 7 or 0.8 of a second to be gained. So with that in the back of the mind, if you're Longacre and Santini, do you try and jump the gun here on Logan Helton when those green flag pit stops come around? Try and see if you can get 1 or 2 lap fresher tires than him?
I mean, as we're starting to see right now, our top 4 that are battling for the championship are our top 4 on course right now. I believe all of them are going to try to push it as far as they can. As, woo boy. I gotta be careful out here.
Gracious.
I mean, these
Almost
drivers are they're really pushing it at the moment, because you're starting to see Longacre is just pushing his car so much more, just trying to stay with Helton and also hold back Santini. As Santini now side by side coming across here, as they might be able to make the pass. Longacre on the outside, he might get the momentum off the corner as they're still side by side.
To be able to hold him off there in 3 and 4, I think the inside line, though, is going to prevail over here in 1 and 2. A lot more banking to be able to utilize, and there you see Santini's going to clear. He'll use the dog leg apron to try and gap himself a little bit more before they get over to turn 3. So move Santini up to second place. And now we got to figure out if Santini was just patiently biding his time to make his way around Evan Longacre, if he's got a car strong enough to now cut down a 1.3 second gap between himself and his teammate Logan Helton.
There were at times when Santini was running about 1/10 to 2 times faster than his teammate, but was stuck behind Longacre. But going back to the point I was trying to make is the fact that our top 4, they're probably going to stay out as long as they can, so that if a caution does come out under green flag pit stops, none of them are left 1 lap down.
And this track is a little bit over a mile in length. Definitely the likelihood that you come to pit road under green flag conditions, you're going to go -1. And we've seen so many times this season, not only here in Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, but in the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series as well. Drivers come down pit road, an untimely caution comes out, and they spend most of the rest of the race trying to get themselves the lucky dog to get back onto the lead lap. And just to remind everybody as well, we're crowning a champion here tonight, but we're going to be crowning another champion tomorrow night. The final 4 of the Veterans of the Foreign War Cup Series will be taking here to ISM as well for 156 laps.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Cup drivers, as none of them showed up here tonight to try to get any type of experience or anything to learn from. So they're all going to be focusing up, trying to get the best setup that they can for tomorrow night.
This season, it's kind of been the tale of 2 drivers in terms of momentum. David Santini, when we first started doing the broadcasting here on Flatout Racing Network, he was winning just about every race in sight. He's got 8 wins on the season. Logan Helton, I think by the time Santini had 6 or 7 wins, Helton only had 2, but then the playoffs started, and Logan Helton comes into this race winning 4 of the last 5 races, all during the playoffs. So it's like the momentum has shifted, but we've still seen Santini finish multiple times in the second position. So the rivalry between these 2, despite being teammates, continues on here tonight in the finale.
Yeah, and those 2, I mean, it's been crazy to watch how much they've been battling back and forth, and just seeing the fact that Santini, like you said, he was so good when we first started broadcasting, and Helton was always just right there, looming and lingering for his time to shine, and it's really been on this second half of the season. And
now the best battle on track is actually going on for a spot inside of the top 10. Kevin Roy has it. Roger Gregory wants it. You brought up the fact of our top four, our championship contenders, wanting to stay out the longest possible, but Jeffrey Meyer's out there on about 11 lap older tires than the other three. So how soon do we see him coming to pit road as opposed to the other three drivers?
Just based off of the fact that fuel-wise, it looked like you were going to be able to split it in half with having that caution. Might be able to push it another 2 laps or so. So probably around lap 77 to around 74 is probably the markers that we're going to be seeing that 38 machine come in, while the other driver is going to be aiming for around lap 80 to 85.
Jeffrey Meyer and Tom Laneville now going to be in a battle for the 4th position. Both these drivers on the same number of laps on their tires. Now, Laneville, as you pointed out, came to pit road under the last caution, but missed his pit stall. So that's why he is up where he is. And he's actually had some very good long-run pace as well. He got around Barry Stevens. He got around Matt White, Matt Knight. And now, whoa, getting loose there off of 4th. He's trying to reel in Jeffrey Meyer for another spot inside the top 5.
Yeah, you got to be careful once you get to this point of time. These tires have worn down quite a bit. Now running about a second off of what you were your best time with the tires being at their freshest. So there's a little bit of wear, and you got to be careful because, you know, when the tires start to wear down, there's kind of stages when your car just randomly will start to get loose at times, or you just might get onto the throttle a little bit too soon. But Tom Laneville, that back end has just been kicking out on him almost every single time he comes out of 4, it seems like. The later and later a run goes on.
Right there, as we're looking inside the cockpit of that number 18, how the hands coming off of turn 4, turn to the right, counter steering, trying to make sure that the back end stays straight coming off the corner. Now, I've been trying to notice this here, Sam, because I know that this is a strategy that some drivers do utilize here at ISM. Running 3rd gear, downshifting to 3rd gear over in 3 and 4 to try and get a little bit better launch off the final corner and on the straightaway. Have you been noticing anybody doing that kind of strategy here?
I believe our front runners are, as we're starting to see drivers going a lap down. Cole Hooper going to be the first car going a lap down, easily giving the space to Logan Helton. But I'm going to continue to watch our leaders because I believe that coming through 3 and 4, that is when we start to see them start shifting down, just because of how slow they start to be running at the ends of these runs.
And the reason that I ask that is because in that lower gear, yes, it does give you a tremendous launch. It gains you some time off of turn 4, but at the same time being a lower gear, you run the risk of wheel spin and having the car get loose on you. So these drivers kind of having to run a little bit of a tightrope here on whether or not they want to run the risk of possibly spinning out. I mean, we saw Tom Laneville nearly lose it at one point. We saw Evan Longacre nearly lose it. So, you know, obviously these tires are wearing with the heat here in the desert, but also that 3rd gear could be playing a part into as well as far as wheel spin off the final turn.
All right, now I'm watching to see if Logan Helton ever shifts down, and it really looks like he's not. He's just keeping it in 4th all the way through this whole entire course. He lets the RPMs drop, and instead of shifting down to try to get that launch off the corner, just staying in that gear so he doesn't have to worry about trying to shift up.
You can see as we're inside the cockpit of the 99 David Santini, that gap visibly is closing. It is now down to a second. It was about a second and 3/10 about 10 laps ago. Santini slowly chipping away at Logan Helton's advantage, starting to close in as well into the neighborhood, as you talked about, of that potential green flag pit stop, which might be the only pit stop these drivers would have to make prior to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and these drivers up front are about a little bit over 2.5 seconds between our top 3. Back to 4th place, you've got 3 cars racing around there. You got Tom Laneville, Jeffrey Meyer, and now Matt White, who has joined the fray of these drivers, and all of them are on the same strategy. All of them still are going to have to pit earlier than our front 3, but running as hard as they can at this moment, as they're running about only a 1/10 to 3/10 off of what our leaders are running right now.
Yeah, and that's with old tires, so very impressive that they're being able to still keep that kind of pace despite being at around a 10, 11 a lap disadvantage as far as their Goodyears are concerned. I was just watching our top 2 here as well, and I have to ask this question. We already talked about the possible sharing of information between the 2 Chevrolet championship competitors of Longacre and Jeffrey Meyer. But on the flip side, you've got Logan Helton and David Santini They're teammates out of BJ McLeod Motorsports, but the two of them are trying to battle each other for the championship. So how much of a lack of information sharing do you think went on in the BJ McLeod camp?
Well, here's the crazy thing, right? There is a little bit of lack communication that might be going on with these drivers due to the fact that I don't believe that either one of the BJ McLeod cars are in the same Discord chat that we usually have drivers hopping into. So they're not sharing any info to one another as Matt White gets a little out of shape out of 3.
Now it gets to this point, everybody wants the championship, and whatever little edge you can get over your competition, whether they be a teammate or not, you gotta try and take it, because it could be the difference between whether or not you're going to be lifting that championship trophy or whether or not you're going to be going home without that championship. As Helton and Santini, they've got not only a championship on the line here, but a little bit of a score to settle in terms of finding out who's going to have the most wins in the season. Both drivers came into this race with 8 wins so far this year. They want to break that tie.
Yeah, they really do want to break that tie. I mean, Logan Helton's just been really trying to run down Santini all season long, and now is the time for that 8 machine to finally say, hey, I was the better driver all season long. But I mean, that's just a rivalry of teammates. I mean, it comes to that point when you've been working together, dominating all season long. You really want to prove, hey, this was my season and it wasn't yours.
Gap now is down to 9/10 of a second. So while Santini is gaining, it's taking him quite a number of laps to be able to chip away even a 10th. That time took him about 4 laps to close down a 10th on Logan Helton. Further back, we've got a battle that's potentially brewing. That's between Jeffrey Meyer and Matt White, as the two of them making their way around the lap machine of Cole Cooper. I've noticed a couple of drivers have had to deal with the outside wall here at Phoenix. Cooper is one, Roger Gregory another. We've seen some drivers get out of shape off the corners. More than likely, it's them trying to gather the car back up, maybe overcorrecting and getting the outside wall.
Yeah, and this is what took out Cole Hooper as well as Roger Gregory last week, was not being able to avoid that outside wall. As Hooper, once again, on the high line, trying to give Matt White some space. And Cole Hooper actually going to be one of the first cars coming into the pits here on the green flag run. So trying to get those repairs done and just feeling like this car is not running the way he wants it to.
You can see he's got that right rear damage on his Motorcraft Ford Mustang. A little bit of damage around the right front as well. As back up at the front, the gap continues to hold about 9/10 of a second as we are more than a third of the way now through this race, getting closer and closer to finding out who is going to win the championship here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You're not going to miss anything. We'll be back for the round potentially of green flag pit stops as you watch this battle between Helton and Santini for the race lead at ISM.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the veterans of foreign wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the veterans of foreign wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
Most everyone involved in sim racing always wants that edge or even make the experience a little bit better, or in this case, a little bit more in depth. Enter iRacing iFlag. iFlag is a simulation signal box with software designed by Peter Vostro. When you are behind the wheel in iRacing, your eyes are looking down the track or maybe even in the rear or side view mirrors. You may not notice or even hear when the caution comes out, when your car is damaged, or if you get black flag, or even notice the car beside you. Yes, iFlag will point out the size and tell you where that car is. It just makes iRacing more real and can help you become a better driver. We also offer iRacing iFlag Digital Pit Box. This small box is a great addition to any sim rig. With only 3.5 inches wide, it gives you all the information you need, including how many laps completed, how much fuel you will need to finish, what lap you need to pit on, laps so your fuel is empty, as well as weather and track conditions. It also switches when you come down pit road for more information, including what lap you're pitting under, tire wear, laps on tires, fuel average, and much, much more. To see more info, check us out today at iracingiflag.com.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the veterans of foreign wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the veterans of foreign wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
Most everyone involved in sim racing always wants that edge or even make the experience a little bit better, or in this case, a little bit more in-depth. Enter iRacing iFlag. iFlag is a simulation signal box with software designed by Peter.
We welcome you back here to the season finale for the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series at ISM Raceway. Logan Helton right now leading the way as race leaders have encountered some slower traffic at the tail end of the field. Battle we were watching moments ago, and it's still on, Sam, for that 5th position. Jeffrey Meyer continuing to lose some spots here, falling into the clutches of the 11 of Matt White.
Yeah, Matt White trying his best to run, but Cole Hooper's going to be in between them as Hooper gets a little bit out of shape entering turn number 3 and 4, and we'll see if White can get by Hooper, but it looks like that 11 machine is kind of stalled out due to the fact he cannot get by.
We've got 8 drivers currently on the lead lap. Matt Knight, Roger Gregory, Kevin Roy all just went a lap down during that commercial break. Cole Hooper right now 2 laps down after he had to make an unscheduled trip to pit road and took on a new set of tires. And we're closing in as well, Sam, on that point you were talking about where more than likely we're going to see Jeffrey Meyer, Tom Laneville, Matt White, and Barry Stevens, who all did not come to pit road under the first and only caution, probably having to come down pit road and take on some tires.
Yeah, we're most likely going to be seeing these drivers that have not pitted yet come in the next about 8 to possibly 15 laps. That's the window that we're looking for these drivers, just because they had the pace laps from the first caution that came out, which is going to allow them to save fuel and be up front. But they're going to have to pit earlier than what our leaders are, and our leaders are going to be set up so much better here for this longer run, as they're going to have to only worry about pitting here probably in the next 20 laps or so. Just putting a real big difference. I mean, 11 laps doesn't seem like much, but it's been about a 1/10 to about 3/10 difference on pace itself between these drivers, just with having the difference on tires.
Battle for 3rd. Tom Laneville in the 18 is now closed onto the back bumper of Evan Longacre. So Longacre in trouble of losing a position to the top 2.
Matt Knight, one of the drivers that was waiting to come to the pits, he's going to be coming in. Actually, he was one of the drivers that pitted early with that early caution that came out. He's going to be coming in the pits. We'll see if he's got damage set on that machine or not. But like you said, side-by-side action for that third place.
Laneville trying to get the edge off of turn 4. About a half a car length advantage going into 1 and 2. Longacre more than likely going to have to give up the spot, and he will. We talked a little bit earlier about the difference
Meyer and White in.
This is potentially the final and only pit stop for Jeffrey Meyer, as well as the 11 of Matt White. And I was going to mention as well, it'll be interesting to watch what Jeffrey Meyer is able to do here now on the fresh tires. There's 12 Roger Gregory in as well, because the gap difference from old tires to fresh tires when we previously looked was about 0.8 of a second. It now is nearly a full second.
And Longacre, a driver that came in early. He's going to be now coming in with the rest of this crew. So short pitting for the 10 possibly here.
Let's see if this forces the hand of Logan Helton and David Santini perhaps to come down pit lane. As Logan Helton, well, that car looked a little bit loose going into turn 1. I don't know if they just got the car to turn really well or if that back end kind of helped him be able to turn into the corner. Right now the gap has opened up again between himself and Santini, probably with the aid of that traffic they had to deal with. It's now 1.2 seconds.
And there is the question mark for Jeffrey Meyer and Longacre. Both of them are now going to be one lap down, going to be trying to unlap themselves the hard way before another caution comes out. As Aaron Tyner now going to be coming in, as well as David Santini just pulled in.
Santini from the second position coming down pit lane. We were talking just during the commercial break about that damage that Santini has there on the left front after the contact between himself and Tom Laneville. You know, it's kind of looked like it's affected him a little bit in terms of from the center of the corner off. Don't know if they're going to be able to take a little bit of time to be able to repair that just a tad here, as here comes Logan Helton now to pit lane in the 8.
And now we're waiting for Kevin Roy to come into the pits as well. That's going to be the last driver that should be pit and then can make it to the end. But yeah, that damage is going to be causing a little bit more tightness for the 99 machine and making it hard on these exits for him just to get the run out that he was hoping to have beforehand. As now driver's going to be coming out of the pits, getting ready to go. Driver to watch out for, though, is where does Evan Longacre come out of all of this? Does he gain any time? Also, with Santini pitting early, does he somehow take the lead away from the 8 of Logan Helton?
Santini is going to come out ahead of Longacre, nearly a straightaway between the two of them there. Santini was going into 1 as Longacre was coming out of 4. There's Helton on the bottom of the racetrack in the 8 machine. He's going to be just barely ahead of Santini by maybe about 4 car lengths, as this is going to cycle the 8 car back to the lead, but the gap definitely closed up.
Definitely is, and that might and could be the money stop for these drivers. As now if we run to the end of this race, that should be it. But now the question is, does Santini have the pace to run down the 8? We really haven't seen him have an opportunity just yet, but it's still there lingering to wait and see.
Yeah, Santini with that damage you can still see there on the left front, so that tight condition obviously not going to go away, but he ran about, nearly 60, 70 laps there. With that damage, you have to wonder if maybe he was able to make a little bit of a minor adjustment to loosen up the race car, kind of counter that tight condition, and maybe help himself for what's potentially looking like going to be a run to the checkered flag.
And looking like Evan Longacre now under fire from Tom Laneville, and all these drivers still running as hard as they can. Kevin Roy still out on track. Most likely we'll be seeing the 4 machine in the pits here in the next 5 laps to 6 laps. Just based on the patterns that we've been seeing, but the 4 car might be in the way just slightly for Longacre, as now going to be trying to use that 4 machine just to slow down the 18 just a little bit there.
Not the way that Roger Gregory wanted to end out his season. He had his number 12 taken to the garage area. Will finish in the 12th position here tonight. Right now, 11 drivers on track. Currently, it looks like 9 of them on the lead lap, as there's some close quarter racing for 3rd place again between Laneville and Longacre going through 3 and 4.
I thought we were going to be seeing some deja vu of what we saw back on lap 11 with the way that we were seeing Laneville right on side-by-side quarter panel of the 10 of Evan Longacre. Looked very similar about how Laneville got into Santini earlier.
Kevin Roy has finally hit pit lane in his JD Motorsports Chevrolet, so that will complete the cycle of pit stops. Now these drivers, for the most part, are racing to the checkered flag, but if you're someone like Evan Longacre, who currently is running nearly 7 seconds behind the leaders, Jeffrey Meyer, who's about 13 seconds behind the leader, you're hoping and praying that some way a caution might be able to come out to get you back in the run of this, but with only 11 cars running and the field very spread out, I'm not really certain that that's a plausible request.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping for a caution to come out, and you're also hoping that it's not you that brings out the caution, as we're still watching the battle here for third place. Tom Laneville is not backing down on Longacre, and they continue to fight back and forth. Laneville does have 2-lap fresher tires than the 10 machine of Longacre, and I think that's why we're starting to see the 18 machine be able to push as hard as he is right now.
Hopefully we see this battle settled out soon, because we are having the battle for the lead starting to close up. The closest Santini has been on the bumper of Logan Helton for the past 50 laps. It's now less than half a second.
Yeah, this is impressive by Santini, who's been trying to run down Logan Helton all race long, and with these tires, even if though it's 1 lap older tires, still trying to do his best in that 99 machine to make this pass cleanly and not try to wreck his teammate during this whole entire race, as they're still so close to one another.
A couple of drivers up ahead of them. One of them is the 51 of Aaron Tyner, the other the 78, their teammate Barry Stevens. That's a battle for 7th place that's going to be going on right in front of this battle for the race lead.
Yeah, I mean, this is very similar on how we saw Logan Helton and David Santini taken out back at, I believe that was at Bristol, when those drivers were the favorites to win there, and both of them were taken out and gifting the lead to Barry Stevens at that race. We'll see if our leaders, they're hoping that they don't see a wreck in front of them or even near them.
Closing in on 60 laps to go, 2 car lengths between Helton and Santini. Santini's running a slightly higher line there through 1 and 2. That's gaining him a little bit of straightaway speed. He also seems to be the only driver willing to go down there and cut the dogleg. Logan Helton keeps his car above the yellow line on the back straightaway.
Yeah, for not having to risk really your car shaking in that, really having the chance of your car stepping out on you. So going with the safety route is Logan Helton at the moment. But another thing to keep our eyes out on is the sun was setting from the start of this race, and the sun is almost completely off the track, and the track temp has gone down back to the way it started when the race started with 77 degrees. And it's only going to get cooler as the night goes on and this race continues to go.
As the night starts to creep in, the track will cool down, the grip will get a little bit higher. The question is just how worn down will the tires be, and would that cooler condition in any way help or be a hindrance? As here we go, battle for the lead is hot and heavy, and they have now caught Tyner and Stevens, the 51 and the 78. And the reason why this is something I want to keep an eye on is the last time that Helton and Santini caught up to traffic, it was actually Helton that made his way through the traffic better and opened up his race lead gap.
Yeah, and as you're watching that, I'm keeping my eye out on for this third place battles. It continues to be right on top of one another. But Logan Helton and David Santini, they've got to be aware of getting through this traffic, as Helton easily getting by Tyner that time.
Santini not quite up there to be able to get around the 51. As Helton's now been able to open up his gap to about 0.6 of a second. We'll now drop back to that third place battle you were talking about, which continues to be bumper to bumper. The Chevrolet of Longacre, the Toyota of Tom Laneville. Laneville with a good run there through the center of 3 and 4. Tries to get the power down off of turn 4 though, but Longacre with that topside holds him off yet again.
Yeah, it really looks like Tom Laneville during these last couple of pit stops been able to make the adjustments to help that 18 really get through the center of 3 and 4 and stay on that yellow line. As we saw back on lap 11, it just looked like that 18 car drifted up into the 99, which brought out our one and only caution of the day. As these drivers continue on, I mean, it is very impressive to see how these drivers have really evolved throughout this race already.
Now, right now, we've got this battle for third place going on between a championship contender and a non-championship contender. If you're that 10 of Evan Longacre, you're not only using up your tires trying to hold off the 18, but you're running the risk that maybe, just maybe, the two you're going to make contact, you're going to get wrecked and take yourself out of this championship picture. So do you think that maybe if Laneville gets to him again, it might be wise to actually let him on by?
I mean, in some fashions, I think it would. It would really benefit the 10 a lot just to let Tom Laneville go. Laneville's on the fresher tires. And Longacre, he's on the oldest tires comparatively to the rest of this field. As Longacre gets a little bit out of shape out of 1. That's a nerve-wracking spot to get loose, especially with the car right on your tailpipes. And there goes Laneville. We'll see if the crossover move happens here coming out, but it's looking like Evan Longacre's just going to follow suit to the 18.
So now it'll be Supra's 1, 2, 3, with Laneville making the pass for the 3rd position. Longacre drops back to 4th. Jeffrey Meyer currently is in the 5th position. And your top 4 for the championship, all running inside of the top 5, but there's about 15, almost 16 seconds separating them all, with Tom Laneville in the middle.
Yeah, and another car is not going to be able to finish out this race here tonight. Cole Hooper in the 00. We talked about it and was just documenting the fact that he had a lot of right side damage after hitting the wall a couple of times, deciding that his day is officially done.
Logan Helton starting to catch up to the 78 of Barry Stevens, his teammate. Stevens right now last car on the lead lap in the 7th position. Just to give you a quick rundown here. Helton's leading, Santini 2nd, Laneville in 3rd. Evan Longacre, Jeffrey Meyer complete the top 5. Then Matt White and Barry Stevens in 6th and 7th are the last cars on the lead lap. You already talked about with drivers out of the race. So the drivers remaining at 1 lap down. 8th place Aaron Tyner, 9th place Matt Knight, and 10th place Kevin Roy. Hooper and Gregory out of the race as we are closing in on 50 laps to go here tonight at ISM. The gap still close, half a second between the top 2.
Yeah, and it's really the fact that, like you talked about, Logan Helton is able to get through traffic so well because everyone's just like, oh, it's the leader, got to get out of the way, that by the time that we see Santini get up to lap traffic, it's at an awful time where the 99 car cannot make a pass, and so it's just been hurting him on the longer run. But still, after they get by traffic, that's when Santini comes back, starts fighting back on the 8 machine. So it starts to make you think, if they were equal and trying to battle on a restart, I think that David Santini might have the faster car here.
The other interesting thing, too, you brought up the fact of that we're going to have the track temperature cooling down. The likelihood that a caution is going to come out is very, very slim. So that pit stop they made, you have to wonder, did they make an adjustment just to try and fix the handling of the car for then and now? Or did they make an adjustment so that way the car is going to handle the best when we get down to the closing stages of this race with the track starting to cool?
I think this is probably the one time these drivers could sense that the track was going to cool off later in the run, so they could start making that adjustment early on and try to have a late run vehicle that will just come in when the track is at its coolest. At other tracks throughout the season, though, it's been interesting to see these drivers, as Barry Stevens isn't giving a lot of room to the 8 machine there, actually blocking his teammate kind of in a way through that corner.
You've seen Barry Stevens. He's almost kind of like the Ryan Newman of the series. He will fight to stay on the lead lap, even if it's a teammate here. And Helton going to get held up just the least little bit by the 78. Santini closes the gap up even more here down the back straightaway.
It's going to be interesting to see, will Barry Stevens fight back again here, as he still stays in the lane and not really getting out of the way at all as he continues on. Barry Stevens willing to fight for every position, doesn't matter where it's at, as he'll actually just duck out of the way for the 99 machine.
So now it's going to be Santini and Helton with some fairly clean racetrack now. I think the next car that they would encounter, Matt White, some 10 seconds ahead of them. So now it's kind of a mono here for the next, I would say 20 to 25 laps. Somewhere in that vicinity. We've got a battle brewing back there between Jeffrey Meyer and Matt White. White was actually a little out of shape off of turn 4 a couple of moments ago, which lost him some ground. We'll see if he can start reeling the 38 car back in. That's a battle for 5th.
Yeah, the battle for 5th is going to be close, and they might still be right on top of one another once we see Logan Helton and Santini catch up to these front runners. We could be seeing the same exact thing that we had last week at Iowa, where we will only have about 3 or 4 drivers left on the lead lap. If we go green to the end here, it's been a dominating fashion so far by Logan Helton, David Santini, like we expected. But I think the most surprising thing was the way that we saw Evan Longacre early in this race being so close to our top 2. But now he has dropped back over 9 seconds back from our leaders.
David Santini now about half a car length, almost a full car length there through 3 and 4. off the back bumper of Logan Helton. I want to actually go on board here with David Santini because as we're going down, it's actually on board with Logan Helton, sorry, as we're going down this front straightaway, with the area that the sun is setting, it may be causing a little bit of a visibility problem for these drivers coming off of turn 4.
It's been a visibility issue probably since the start of the race, as these drivers continue to be trying to enter this corner and, you know, making sure that you know your braking zones, making sure you can see where you want to hit your brakes. It sometimes is a real struggle, and now at some points it becomes a feel of, I feel like now is the time to hit the brakes, not really a visible cue for some of these drivers.
Back to David Santini again. Santini running a little bit wider there off of turn 2. Brings it down onto the apron of the back straightaway, and we're starting to see little by little the aid of Logan Helton creep down there, utilizing the apron also, maybe trying to take away clean air from the 99, not allow him to get as good a run into turn 3.
Well, I mean, it's the advantage that the car in second place kind of has at times, where you're able to search and try to find where the speed is on the track. Well, as for the leader, it's kind of a risk to try to be searching, as, like you say, the 8 car is slightly coming onto the apron, trying to figure out, do I want to fully commit, or do I just want to test this out for now to see if the setup will work down there? But we've seen all race long, Logan Helton's just been staying on the racing surface, not really been trying the apron on the backstretch. As here comes David Santini right there on the back bumper in striking distance now, as we're less than 50 laps to go, about to be less than 40 laps to go.
Hey, you know, it's really interesting because normally running down there on that apron can gain you about 1 to 2 tenths on the car in front of you. If anything, it almost looks like it's hurting David Santini. He'll be right on the back bumper of Logan Helton coming off of turn 2. By the time he uses that apron down on the back straightaway, he's about a car length behind the 8 going into turn 3.
Yeah, it's mainly because if you're staying on the racing surface, you can kind of hit your marks of when you want to arc in perfectly fine. If you use that apron, you have to be so aggressive on when you have to come up and down into these corners that it can really hurt your entry sometimes, or even just lose you time in general with the fact that you're bumping so much on that backstretch from the transition. But right now, it's been the 8 and the 99 all race long so far. I mean, Tom Laneville, who's back at 3rd place, he's back about 7.2 seconds back from our leaders, really not really having a chance at the moment unless a yellow comes out.
You can see how that car chatters when it goes down there onto the apron on the backstretch. And the thing that we have to think about as well, with the fact that more than likely these drivers have made their final pit stop of the day, barring seeing a caution maybe coming out here in these final 40 laps, I would have to think if you're David Santini, you've got to be on the attack early here because you don't know what kind of tires you're going to have available to you to try and make a move in the closing stages of this race.
We know both these drivers still have one more set left in their pit stalls if needed. But with a small field, I mean, it's still possible. Even if you get into a wreck late with about 10 laps to go, you might want to think about coming in and taking some tires and not staying out. It's a small enough field that you can actually run down and get back up to the front if you need to do a late pit stop, with just due to the fact that everyone still has one more set to work with.
Well, these drivers, when they were here earlier on this season, David Santini went to victory lane. Logan Helton finished in 3rd. Between the two of them, they led 145 laps of the event. Santini has yet to lead a lap here tonight, as Logan Helton has dominated after getting the race lead away from Evan Longacre. Longacre, Meyer, and Helton, the only 3 of the playoff 4 that have led here tonight. Santini, I'm sure, wouldn't mind just leading 1 lap, that final lap, but he's got to get around his teammate to do it.
It's the one that matters, but right now it's more of, can you set up for this pass? I mean, you've documented the fact that on the backstretch, that's when we see Santini losing the time. It's coming out of 4. That's when it's the strength for the 99. Also through 1 and 2. I mean, coming through 1 and then coming down the backstretch, it's just a lot of lost time being made. And it kind of makes you want to think, what if Santini just follows the 8, tries to follow in his footsteps, and then tries to make it maybe a bump and run on these final couple of corners?
Yeah, I would love to see what would happen if Santini kept his car up above the yellow line in the back straightaway there, because you can see right there, on the back bumper of the 8 again, he was all over his back bumper through 1 and 2. I really think he could set up a pass over in 3 and 4 if he just doesn't run down there on the apron on the back straightaway.
And that's going to be Matt Knight that you saw coming into the pits for that 0-1. Did pit way earlier than everyone else, was Matt Knight. That's why he's pitting right now. Everyone else good to make it to the end, and it's looking like it's going to be between the 8 and the 99. The other question we got to start thinking about, there's still a lot of racing here to be made. How do you want to save your tires? Because we're seeing that David Santini is trying to stay on the back bumper to try to make a move at any point that we see Logan Helton slip up. But also you got to think about your tires in the long run.
Yeah, because we're looking right now at the last lap between Helton and Santini, and Helton ran a little bit more than a tenth quicker. So with that being said, Santini is not only trying to gain ground on Logan Helton and not necessarily being able to do so, but maybe also wearing his tires down a little bit more than the race leader.
And with the shattering that the driver of the 99's having from this transition, is that hurting tire-wise with him with the aggressive transitions from the apron to the racing surface?
Certainly would think so, because that apron down there is not down there for grip. It's just down there to be able to make up a little bit of time on the car that you're battling with. So I would have to think that that is definitely wearing down the tires a little bit more than if you were running up there on the banking of the back straightaway.
I'm also trying to keep my eyes out on drivers that are interacting with one another, trying to make passes. As Tom Laneville is going to be passed by the driver of Matt Knight, who just got those fresher tires. 3 laps down is Matt Knight, leaving us with a total of 6 cars on the lead lap at this moment. But Matt White is being ran down by the 8 and the 99. Now about a corner that is the difference between those drivers.
Translates to about 5 seconds. There's also the lap machine of Kevin Roy just up ahead. Roy currently a lap down in the 9th position, so the second time the race leaders will encounter him, as the gap has now opened up again here, 0.4 of a second between Logan Helton and David Santini. So the question now is, has the 99 used up his stuff, or is he kind of trying to regroup and try again?
I mean, I'd imagine he's trying to regroup at the moment. I mean, he was pushing very hard and showed that Santini does have the pace to be right on the back bumper of Logan Helton, but just not been able to really show that he can move the 8 machine out of the way. I think this is probably the most stable we have seen Logan Helton be all season long. I mean, it feels like all season we've been seeing Logan Helton with probably the loosest car out of all the BG McLeod machines, but still running up front. And the longer that the races, longer the playoffs have gone on, the more it seems like it is swapped, where Santini is the car that is extremely loose at times, and Logan Helton's the one with the most stable machine.
Yeah, you bring up a great point there, because when I saw drivers like Laneville and Longacre, Matt White, seeing them getting loose off of the corner, I was fully expecting to see that 8 car of Logan Helton getting loose off the corner at some point, but if he is getting loose, it's not major loose where it's really visible. He's been able to keep that car pretty steady underneath him, but here comes Santini. He's been able to close the gap back up again, made a very quick pass there after Helton got around Kevin Roy. Santini did the same. It's back down to 0.3 of a second with less than 30 laps to go.
Yeah, Kevin Roy's been known to, whenever he gets caught up by the leaders, just to get out of the way, let them race their race, and he'll you just get out of the way any way you can. But they are within 0.3 of one another, and we'll see. David Santini, like we've stated, he is the fastest during corner number 1 entry, and then sometimes on exit, but exit's been kind of questionable mark. Has been a question mark for this 99 machine, and then on the exit of 4, that's when we're also seeing Santini at his best. So this whole entire front stretch into corner number 1 really seems to be the time that we see the 99 at its fastest, and the rest of the track, that's where Logan Helton starts to pull away.
Santini now starting to run a little bit higher than Logan Helton through 1 and 2, a little bit lower through 3 and 4. There you see him let the 99 ride up off the corner. He'll turn it left down onto the apron, and we're seeing Logan Helton run down the apron more and more as well. So it's looking like the 8 car is doing more mirror driving now than out the windshield. when we get closer to the end of this race, though, I kind of think he's going to have to transition to just looking out the windshield, making sure he doesn't make any mistakes here in hitting his marks.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you're going to have to see that happen. And it's really looking like the driver that can really stay on that yellow line through any of the corners is the driver that's going to be the fastest. And as we saw there a lap ago, Santini faded off of the yellow line through one, and now we're starting to see here where Santini just fades off of the yellow line on the entry and then tries to come back onto it during the apex of the corner. But he's losing time because of the fact that he is not able to stick on that bottom lane like we're seeing Logan Helton do.
It's not a battle for position. Matt Knight in the fresher tires getting around Kevin Roy. Roy 2 laps down, Matt Knight 3 laps down, trying to get up there to the race leaders to get one of his laps back. And, there's about 30, almost 40 laps difference between the tires on the 0-1 and the race leaders. I mean, if Matt Knight gets up there to the 99 and the 8, that could be a huge X factor into the outcome of this race.
Yeah, it looks like Matt Knight is really pushing that 0-1 machine because he sees our leaders in front of him and trying to get at least a lap back. He got a little squirrely out of turn number 4 the last time by, and we'll see if he can get through this corner cleanly as that battle for the lead that was within 2 tenths, now back to 6, almost 7 tenths now, as David Santini's tires, they look like they're dead. They're gone, and there's no chance of coming back unless he's playing a possum here and is just fading back for a moment.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. It's very difficult sometimes to be able to tell with these guys because they're so savvy. Sometimes you think they may be out of it. Next thing you know, they're back battling for the race lead as the gap maintains about 8 tenths of a second between Helton and David Santini, and the gap is closing up between these two and that 0-1 of Matt Knight, who is running about a second faster than these drivers for the last 3 laps.
Yeah, and right now, just looking at Logan Helton, he's just continuing to gap, running about a tenth, sometimes a tenth and a half faster than Santini is Helton, and man, it's crazy to see the difference between these drivers the last couple of weeks. Of seeing sometimes it's Santini that's better on these longer runs, able to save the tires better, and then it flip-flops to Logan Helton. But both of these teammates, they've been dominant all season long, and I think coming into this race, Seth, both you and I kind of had them as the favorites. But I mean, the other drivers were still quick. Of Jeffrey Meyer and Evan Longacre, it's just they haven't won this season yet, but they had the pace potentially. But they needed to have a lot more cautions come out and keep this close because a long run has always been dominated by the BJ McLeod drivers.
Absolutely. Evan Longacre right now, if the race were to end at this point, would be finishing 3rd in the championship standings as he currently runs 4th on the track. And there's Jeffrey Meyer in the 38 trying to hold off the advances of Matt White. Currently Meyer holding on to the final spot inside of the top 5, but Matt White swinging around the outside trying to close up the gap. The two of them just ahead of the race leaders there. If you look back just a ways, there's about maybe a little more than the straightaway from this battle for 5th back to the race leader, Logan Helton.
And Logan Helton is just crossing his fingers and just praying right now that we do not see a yellow. If a yellow flag comes out, this really is going to breathe life into the 99 machine for him to have a chance to try to battle the 8. And I do believe that on the shorter runs, David Santini looks like the faster car. And then the middle point there kind of equal. And then by, as you can see now, 50 laps onto the tires on this run. And we're seeing Logan Helton just pulling away and looking like the fastest car for the final lap, 20 laps into a run.
And now what's going to happen when he catches up to this traffic? Because Jeffrey Meyer is obviously trying to keep his championship hopes alive. I don't think he's going to be an easy car to pass for Logan Helton. And you got the 11 of Matt White. He's a teammate to Evan Longacre, so he may try and hold up the BJ McLeod boys to try and give his teammate a little bit of a shot here late.
What will happen here? We've seen lap traffic get out of the way, except for, I think, Barry Stevens might have been the most difficult traffic for our leader so far. That gap, 1.1 seconds between the 8 car of Logan Helton and David Santini. But, man, it's interesting to see how these drivers are going to continue to run this thing out as we're coming closer and closer to the end of this race, Seth, and it's not looking good for David Santini. I mean, playing a possum for about 5 laps is good, but he's been losing time now for over 5 laps and hasn't been trying to make a charge back.
The one thing that we've kind of learned from this series is just when we think we have it figured out, something always ends up surprising us. So I'm not yet giving this championship to Logan Helton because there's still 16 coming to 15 laps to go where anything still is possible. And especially with this traffic coming up here, we're going to have to see how carefully Logan Helton is going to be able to make his way through it.
This is going to be probably the toughest challenge that this 8 car is going to have. How easy are these lap cars going to get out of the way? You know Matt White doesn't want to wreck our leader, and he doesn't want to wreck Jeffrey Meyer, but he also wants to stay on the lead lap. Jeffrey Meyer, he has to stay on the lead lap just in case a caution comes out. And here we go. Logan Helton right on the back bumper of the 11, might be shoving him out of the way. They are now boxing in the 8 machine. Where is Helton going to go?
Yeah, Matt White ran into the back of Jeffrey Meyer through 3 and 4. That checked him up, gave the opportunity for Helton to get by. He
Contact
bumped the 38
there.
out of the way.
I mean, that's the fastest way to get him out of the way, and that now gives an opportunity to Matt White now to try to make a pass here. Santini's going to try to catch up to him, and that didn't slow Helton down one bit. If anything, he might pull away just due to the fact that David Santini, he now has to battle 2 cars that are side by side and aren't willing to give any space.
Santini's kind of boxed in right now. He's got the fresher tires of Matt Knight trying to reel him in. He's also trying to get around the 11 and the 38. So he's got a lot of traffic around him as Logan Helton has set sail. It's now nearly a second and a half down the back straightaway headed for 3.
And this is exactly what he wants to see, is Logan Helton continuing to gap himself. Santini side by side with a 38 of Jeffrey Meyer, able to get by possibly here off the corner, and he will be clear on the back stretch as the drivers are blinking, I believe, around Matt Knight, which is nerve-wracking to see as White was right there. Where did the 11 car go? If he comes back on track, this could cause an accident possibly, because no one knows what happened to the 11.
I saw Tom Laneville in the 18 blinking a few moments ago. Matt White in the 11 is not returned to our telemetry. His name is grayed out, so if he continues to remain off the racing surface for a long enough period of time, iRacing will be kicking him out of the session. And Matt was in a battle at the time for the 5th position.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Meyer now going to be feeling a little bit comfortable if the 11 car officially gets disconnected from the server. But that's heartbreaking for Matt White, who officially right now is 2 laps down, and believe he will be disconnected and he's manually disconnected, is done for the race. The 11 of Matt White is done. We're going to start 3rd driver to DNF out of the race.
10 laps to go here tonight at ISM. The gap, 1.7 seconds between Logan Helton and David Santini. That last time by, they nearly ran identical lap times, which means that Santini, he needs to find anywhere from about 2 to 3 tenths to make sure he's going to be back on the bumper of the 8 by the time they come around to the white flag.
It's not looking good. At the moment, there's not anything being gained. They continuously are running very similar lap times. If anything, Logan Helton's running just slightly by about 100th faster. There's nothing being gained. This is not what Santini needs. He needs to be gaining time, and I think he might have been trying to save tires, but he did not save enough for this final push.
The point of the race I was talking about for Logan Helton, he cannot look behind him now. He has to just look out the windshield, make sure he hits his marks. As that car looked a little sideways coming out of turn 4, I thought I saw him brush the wall on the front straightaway the last time around. He cannot make those little mistakes.
And right now on track, I don't believe there is any car in sight for Logan Helton. It's look forward and try to pull away. If anything, keep it the same. Run similar lap times and make sure the 99 car cannot gain anything. As coming around this corner, Logan Helton is looking fantastic at the moment and is hoping for no caution to come out. If a caution comes out, that's going to rack us all up and give another chance for Santini as well as Longacre.
Richmond, Las Vegas, the Charlotte Roval, Kansas. And, of course, last week at Iowa, 5 races he won during the playoffs, 3 races won during the regular season. Logan Helton, since the postseason began, has been on a tear and trying to close out what has been an incredible season. He's got 6 more circuits around Phoenix to be able to not only win tonight's race, but hoist that championship trophy as well.
David Santini tires are done as he's getting passed also by Matt Knight at the moment. It looked like as Matt Knight able to he was trying to make the pass, actually. That was just Santini, how slow he was running. 2/10 off for our leader, which is crazy to see. Which, honestly, I'm surprised to see how much he has dropped off. And it looks like when he was all right on the back bumper of the 8, that's when he was on push and complete have-to-go mode.
Logan Helton is now at 5 laps to go, 4.5 down this back straightaway. Gap over 2 seconds between himself and David Santini. The track clear in front of him. He just has to hit his marks, make no little mistakes. He's got the whole track basically to himself at this point in time, as it's now 4 laps to go.
It's crazy to look at the stats between Logan Helton and David Santini coming into this week. Both drivers had a total of 25 top 10s this season. David Santini had 21 top 5s, 22 went to Logan Helton, and both had 8 wins. They were so similar, so equal coming into this race. You didn't know who was going to win it. Right now, Logan Helton looking like the more dominant car here at ISM.
And remember, Logan Helton, I think if we go all the way back to the restart, the only caution we had, that's where Logan Helton won this race, because he was trapped behind traffic along with Evan Longacre, since those were the top 2 at the time who took on 4 tires. Some drivers stayed out, some were ahead of him on 2 tires, but Helton had the inside line on the restart, was able to gap Evan Longacre, and ever since then, he's been able to hold off the advances of his teammate David Santini, and he is now a little more than 2 miles away from victory.
2 laps to go and just have to hit your mark. Really, you just got to make sure you get around corner number 4 with no yellow coming out, and then you'll see Logan Helton just having to make one more lap around. And really, it's get to the white flag. Get that white flag out and make sure that no yellow comes out at the moment.
Earlier on this season at Phoenix, Logan Helton led 86 laps, but went on to finish in the 3rd position. He's going to lead more than that here tonight, and more importantly, he's just got 1 more lap before he closes out the deal on the season.
Wasn't loose out of 1, just got to transition through here. 1 more corner to go here, Seth.
Logan Helton through 3 and 4. What a season it has been, what a playoffs it has been, and what an exclamation point it's going to be, as off turn 4, your champion in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series is Logan Helton.
A fantastic, real, just period mark to put down for these drivers to show, hey, I was the car that should have been and is your champion. A total of 9 wins, beating out his teammate David Santini, the most wins out of all the drivers here this series. And it is wild to see, with the most top 5s and now tied with the most top 10s. Logan Helton was wicked quick here tonight, and I don't think there was anyone else that really had a chance besides the 99. And he came up 3 seconds short.
We said, seeing the Final 4, they were advancing here to Phoenix, that it was really going to be whoever won this race was going to win the championship. And that prediction came to fruition, as we may see the longest burnout Logan Helton's done all season, as he gets ready to celebrate here in the desert.
Gets the win, gets the championship. I mean, that's the best way to end off a season, with 2 trophies. And Logan Helton, I mean, congratulations on the way that this night went. 1 caution that came out, Santini able to rebound really from that incident that he had with Tom Laneville with 11 laps into the race, but that was our only caution. Green the rest of the way.
And obviously, unfortunately, 4 drivers come in with hopes to win the championship. Only 1 can win it, but what great performances by the Final 4, with Helton winning, Santini 2nd, Longacre in 4th, and Jeffrey Meyer in 5th. So all 4 of our championship competitors end out the season with top 5 runs.
Yeah, and it really just showed the fact that our Final 4 were one of the best 4 drivers coming into this season and into the playoffs, and they really capped off this season the best way that they could. But only 1 driver was able to get it done, and that was Logan Helton.
Logan Helton, a la Alan Kulwicki, going to do a Polish victory lap here at Phoenix before bringing that number 8 Toyota to victory lane, where he will not only be raising the race win trophy, but the championship trophy as well. Here's the finishing results from this evening's race. Tom Laneville right in the center of our championship 4, finishing in the 3rd position. We talked about the comeback run there for David Santini after he made contact with Laneville, but a great comeback there as well for Laneville. We heard that he was very apologetic for the contact between himself and the 99. Sometimes it's very difficult after something like that to get yourself mentally back into the game, but Laneville did and finishes out the season on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, Laneville was obviously had to rebound from that and try to do his best job. He had to pass a lot of our playoff contenders of getting by Jeffrey Meyer as well as Longacre there during that stint before green flag pit stops happened. And that 18 machine, great run for himself, Evan Longacre, and also Jeffrey Meyer, 4th and 5th, bringing out our top 5. And Barry Stevens, who was really trying to hold off and stay on the lead lap, wasn't able to, and he'll be back in 6th place.
Unfortunate for some drivers, their season coming to an end, not the way they were expecting. DNFs for Matt White, Cole Hooper, and Roger Gregory. As Logan Helton, we'll be talking with him momentarily. He's celebrating down in Victory Lane as we speak. Let's see if we can get some interviews with the other championship 4, however. Let's see if we can get our 5th place finisher. That was Jeffrey Meyer in the 38. Hey, Jeffrey, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I do.
Well, man, I mean, we saw you after that first caution came out. We saw you stay out, have that track position. We were trying to speculate up here what the strategy call there was, the possibility of, if we had a late race caution, having an extra set of tires over the other 3 championship drivers. Was that the strategy, or did you have something else in mind?
No, that was pretty much it. Just needed another caution or 2. I figured if we ran, 20 laps or something and maybe had another caution, then I'd be sitting good. So,
we saw your car run up in the top 5 all night long. When we talked to you last week after the checkered flag waved and we knew you were going to be in the final 4, you mentioned about the possibility of transferring information between yourself and the other Chevrolet that was battling for the championship, Evan Longacre. Was there a transition of information, and what little bit were you able to learn from him that was able to help you run a little bit better here tonight at ISM?
we worked on the set all week together. He was more or less running what I gave him, so he just made his own adjustments after that, but we worked on sets together all week and pretty much running the same thing.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I know this race didn't go the way that you wanted it to go, but we did see you running there and battling with Matt White for a second for most of this race. How was that battle for you here tonight?
He's just a teammate that, he was just running the race, putting on laps and trying to, whatever. If he could help us. If not, he's just here to race.
Well, Jeffrey, we know that obviously you wanted to win this championship here tonight, but certainly despite not winning the championship, it doesn't take away from the tremendous season you've had. Some great numbers. You advance into the final 4 with a shot at this championship, and you finish out the season with a top 5 run as well. So congratulations on a great season overall. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
All right. Thanks. Gotta give a shout out to Evan and Rapid Fire Pizza, iRacing iFlags, Shorba Racing Graphics, Jones Racing Setups, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. And you guys, of course, for putting on the broadcast. I'll be watching it later because I enjoy watching your guys' broadcasts.
Well, that's Jeffrey Meyer. He's going to finish out the season with a top 5 run here tonight at ISM Raceway. Once again there, Jeffrey, congratulations on a great season overall.
Thank you.
And let's now see if we can get the driver that will finish 3rd in the championship standings, our 4th place finisher here tonight, Evan Longacre. Hey, Evan, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir. You guys got me?
We definitely do. Well, man, we saw you come out shooting right out of the gate. You got on the pole position. You led the first few laps of the night. We were kind of commenting on the fact that this was not how we normally see you race. Normally, you settle in with the long run and make forward progress through the field, not normally running up there towards the front. So, did starting out in front here and having to be aggressive early on, was that kind of a change of pace for you that you had to adjust to?
I mean, I kind of tried to do that on purpose. My qualifying lap wasn't the best. I don't think everybody else had the best lap either. Well, it's hard to run your best lap whenever you get the wall twice and you start in the back of the field. So you're a little more cautious, wanting to get in a clean lap. So that was cool to get the pole for the race. And it was fun running up front like that. My car was definitely better on the short run. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen in these things, and I guess looking back on it, knowing it was probably going to be a smaller field, the chances of there being a late race yellow were, I guess, diminished. But I just, I just didn't have it. Just haven't really had all of it all year long. Haven't quite, never quite got where I wanted to get. Still a really fun time though. But yeah, it was different. It was fun to run up front though in the beginning of the race and lead the field like that.
Obviously you guys had to make that one green flag pit stop. Prior to making that pit stop, the track was completely bathed and baked in sunlight. You guys at the end of this race had it transition to cooler conditions. The sun was setting back behind the grandstands there. What kind of adjustments did you make on that pit stop to get yourself ready for when that track transitioned into the nighttime conditions?
Well, I knew the track was going to tighten up, and I'd practiced with it. And the adjustment that I made, I bumped up the right rear tire pressure to try and get a little bit better turn in. That's really where I struggled on the long run. I could not get the car to rotate into the corner. It was, and that puts you in a bad position coming out. So after about 15 laps or so, I just couldn't get the car to drive back down to the bottom. So I made that adjustment, and it was really good on the short run for sure. Even especially as the track tightened up, that's when the car was even better on the short run. But you know, we ran it all the way out, and that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, Evan, it was a strong start for you. We saw how strong your car was on the short run, but we also saw early in this race the fact that David Santini was caught up with Tom Laneville early on that brought out our first caution. And then you also had a little bit of a battle there with Tom Laneville for a bit. How was that battle for you in the middle of this race?
I mean, you don't want to give up spots, especially whenever you're racing for a championship. It's a bit of a ego pride thing. He definitely had a better car than me on the long run. I mean, I mean, I think that was kind of a freak thing, him getting into David like that. I wasn't really worried about him pushing up or getting into me, and I wasn't really worried about him getting frustrated with me being behind. I would think that the fact that I was racing for a championship would kind of justify why I wasn't just letting him go, even though I was probably holding him up. Well, I mean, he pulled out to 3 seconds pretty quick after that, but I mean, it was fun. I mean, it was fun to race with him. I like being on the high side in 3 and 4 and getting the drive up off the corner. That's probably my favorite thing about this track. Racing side by side and having someone underneath of you and being right up against the wall.
Well, Evan, we know that the goal coming into tonight was to win that championship, and unfortunately, you come up short in that regard. But definitely take nothing away from the season you've had. Been incredibly consistent. We've seen you up there in the top five week after week after week. You nearly pulled off that victory a couple of weeks ago at Kansas on fuel strategy. So, I mean, it's been an unbelievable season for you. So we congratulate you on that. And we're now going to turn the mic over to you and let you do some shout outs.
Yeah, well, I definitely have to thank Rapid Fired Pizza, the restaurant that I own in Indiana. Have to thank them for sponsoring the league all year long and helping out with the broadcast fees so that everyone's friends and family can watch. Thank them for being on the car. I had a really cool paint scheme this week. This is actually a throwback to the 48 Chip Ganassi car I ran last year. The paint that I ran in the championship race at Homestead, where things went much more in my favor. Ended up walking away with that one, so that was neat to have this car back out on the track in some way. I have to thank iRacing, iFlag. They do a great job of putting money back into iRacing and just sponsoring leagues in general. And they also have a really cool product, so you really can't beat that. I have to thank FSM Customs, Shorba's Racing Graphics, did the paint for my car, did the paints for my car all year long. Always top-notch work, second to none for sure. And then I have to thank Abiding Love Memorial Urns for what they do and the sponsorship dollars that they put in for these broadcasts. Thank you guys for coming in whenever you did and dedicating your Friday nights to us and then the Cup Series. I really appreciate you guys stepping in and helping out in a big way with that, to broadcast for what we feel is, a Premier League in iRacing, and the broadcasting and the quality of that is definitely a big part of that. So thank you guys very much to that. I greatly appreciate that. Thanks to Jacob Shorba for putting this entire thing on all year long and setting up the sessions and the practices and just running the Discord, everything that he does. Great guy. I got to thank my teammate Jeffrey Meyer, who works on sets with me. We got some stuff figured out, just not enough time together yet. So we'll come out swinging next year. I'm really looking forward to that. So big thanks to him. Thanks to my teammate Carson Bowers. He's not here tonight. I think he's actually at the truck race. Gotta thank Matt White, my other teammate here at college, who helps with some setups and runs some laps with us. Thanks to all the other dudes that I raced with every week. Great group of guys, super fun. Congratulations to Logan. I am more than happy to pass the torch on to him. He's a great representative for our league, great driver. So the championship trophy is in good hands. So congratulations to him.
That's Evan Longacre. He finishes third in the championship standings here this season, fourth here tonight to end out the year at ISM Raceway. Once again, congratulations on a great season there, Evan, and look forward to seeing what you're able to do next year.
Yes, sir. Hopefully I see you guys back with us, and I will come out swinging at Daytona in February.
Let's see if we can now get our second place finisher, the driver that will finish second in the championship standings here tonight, and that's David Santini. Hey, David, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Oh, man, I mean, we saw you put up a heck of a battle there, closing in on around 40 laps to go, right on the back bumper of your teammate there, trying to wrestle away the lead. But where was it you were trying to set him up, and what little bit more did you need to be able to get alongside him?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, the car generally felt pretty good. I did make an adjustment on that the first caution there that we had when we pitted. The car felt a little bit better, but I don't know. I mean, I was right on him, and I was obviously pressuring him pretty hard, but I was still kind of just trying to hang out, save it a little bit, and see how it worked out. But for some reason, he was just able to pull away a little bit there, and I don't know. Like I said, the car felt good. Not really sure what else I could have done to make it go any faster there.
Of course, we had that little heart-stopping moment over in 3 and 4, which I'm sure was the same for you, the contact between you and the 18, but everybody able to avoid you. We did see you had a little bit of left front damage sustained from that, though. Did that affect you in any way, or was that basically a non-factor?
To be honest with you, I didn't know I had any damage there. I thought we got it all fixed because it was only a few seconds, so I'm not sure. I don't think it was, but I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe that was the extra little bit that I needed there. But no, me and Tom got into each other a little bit there, but he was super apologetic afterwards. But yeah, no, it was all good.
Yeah, I mean, David, it was a amazing season for you. I just came up a little bit short here tonight, but I mean, just looking at this whole season, how overall did you feel about it?
I feel great about it. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, as disappointed as you want to be that you came in second at Championship 4. I mean, this was my first open setup league I've ever really done. So I mean, it was a huge learning curve, and to come out second after all of it, I mean, that's huge. So I'm really looking forward to next year. I'm sure we'll be even stronger, and I can't wait.
Yeah, great numbers for you here this season, David. 8 trips to victory lane. Of course, coming into this race, not only the previous winner at Phoenix when you guys were here earlier in the season, but also winning a couple of weeks ago during the playoffs, so having that momentum as well. But a great season for you overall. As you stated there, you finished second in the championship stands. It's going to be great to see what you're able to do now next season as well, trying to ride this momentum from this season. So one final time, David, we're going to turn the microphone over to you. Let's do some shout-outs.
No, I appreciate it, guys. You guys have been awesome this year. over at Flatout Racing Network doing these broadcasts. It's been awesome. And then, of course, everybody that helps out with the league and runs the league. I mean, this is an awesome league. Really looking forward to next year and it being even better. So, yeah, and then Bearing for being on the car all year. They've been huge support. And then iRacing iFlag, Shorber's Racing Graphics, Jones Racing Setups, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. And then, of course, my teammates Logan and Barry, and especially Barry here for pulling it together with me. He's been sick all week, so we've been practicing, and at the end of this year, we really finished strong here working together. So it's awesome, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to working with him next year there in the same team here. So, but thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
That's David Santini, finishes second here tonight to finish out the season at ISM, second in the championship standings. Once again, congratulations on a great season overall there, David, and good luck next year.
Thanks, guys.
And let's go down to Victory Lane, where your race winner and champion Logan Helton is standing by. Hey, Logan, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, man, I don't know which was more exciting to observe. You doing those burnouts and victory lap there, the elation in the race car, or the elation we saw in the YouTube chat when all your fans saw you take that checkered flag and lock up this championship. But I mean, man, there with David Santini on your back bumper, closing in on the end of this race. I mean, what was your heart rate like knowing it was going to probably come down between the two of you here for this championship battle?
I was trying to stay as calm as I could, and I don't know how calm you can be in that situation, but I was just trying to focus on not overdriving the car, because I knew he was probably trying to get a little closer to me to pressure me, and yeah, I was just trying to just hold on and stay patient before I decided I needed to go get a gap on him.
Yeah, you talk about being patient. We saw a couple of times that you caught up to some traffic that at the time in two different occasions were battling for position with each other, and you were actually boxed in a couple of times. So how difficult was it to be patient trying to get through that traffic at the same time managing the gap between yourself and Santini?
Yeah, it was a really hard thing to balance, because I knew that if I tried to get my way through there pretty quick, I might end up wrecking them or wrecking myself in the process and making a mistake, or just diving it in too deep and hitting them or something. But I knew if I took too long, it opened the door for a David to get under me, because during my official races this week, that's what happened to me one time. I was taking my time and got past.
Yeah, I mean, Logan, a fabulous season for yourself, where you were duking it back and forth with David all season long. But really, what does the season really mean for you getting this champion?
It really shows like how much I can do if I practice enough. And I was never an open setup driver until Daytona this year, and ever since then I've just learned so much, and just thanks to everyone that has helped me along the way, especially David Santini and Barry Stevens. And yeah, it really means a lot, because I knew the competition I was going up against heading into this race, and I was nervous before the race, and I was trying to just get my mind off of it and just run some laps and get some more practice in.
Yeah, we knew up here in the booth when the checkered flag waved last week at Iowa, and we knew who the Final Four were going to be, that it was going to be whoever won this race here tonight at ISM was going to win the championship. But after you got the race lead there on the only restart of the night, you never looked back. You held up all the competition, made your way through the traffic, and closed out the deal, not only winning the race, but closing out the season with the championship as well, Logan. Congratulations. One final time, we're going to turn the microphone over to you and let you do some shout-outs.
Well, first, thank you guys for every single broadcast you guys have put on. It's been some amazing quality stuff you guys put out, and thanks for all my family and friends that watch it on Flatout Racing Network. And gotta give a big thank you to all these sponsors for the league: Rapid Fired Pizza, iRacing iFlag, Shorber's Racing Graphics, Jones Racing Setups, who was a former sponsor earlier this year, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. Without those guys, we wouldn't be doing this right now and wouldn't be able to have the broadcast going on. Big thank you to Jacob Shorba for doing everything and helping me get confident for this race, and just pretty much everybody. He just was really good. And thanks my teammates, Stevens and David Santini. And Maconi Setup Shop. And I think that's it.
Well, that is Logan Helton. He headed into ISM here tonight as Logan Helton driver. He leaves ISM as Logan Helton champion. Congratulations, Logan, on not only your 9th win of the season, but the championship here tonight. Go and enjoy it, and we look forward to seeing you carry this momentum into next year.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Sam, we had the question marks. Was it going to be Helton, Santini, Longacre, or Meyer? There was definitely an exclamation point as far as who it was going to be, but he didn't exactly run away with it. Santini gave him a run for his money. Longacre was strong early on as well. Meyer tried some strategy. So all 4 of our championship competitors gave it their all here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it really was looking like it was going to be a battle between the 8 and the 99 coming to the end there, and then about 20 laps to go. That's when we saw Logan Helton really hit his mark, and those tires just came in at the right time for him to pull away from David Santini. And Logan Helton then was just praying that there was no caution that would come out. Didn't come out, and now we find ourselves Logan Helton in that number 8 machine as our champion.
Yeah, you look at the accolades Logan Helton has had this season. We've already talked about the fact he's the champion. He's won here tonight, his 9th win of the season. That now puts him at the top for most wins this season. He and Santini came in tied with 8 prior to tonight's event, but he also has a win over in the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series at Daytona, and those drivers decide their Championship 4 battle tomorrow night. So are we in the same scenario where it's going to come down to race winner being the champion there?
I really do think so. I mean, we've been talking about what it's going to be like for the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series. Boyd Hogan has been the favorite practically since the playoffs started, and we'll see if that 2 machine still has it. ISM really looks really wide open when you look at the 4 drivers that are locked in and there to race. I'm excited to see how tomorrow night goes, if it's anything like it was tonight.
Here tonight, it was 2 Toyotas versus 2 Chevrolets. Tomorrow night, it's 2 Fords versus 2 Toyotas as Hogan, McWhirter, Benjamin, and Gunisman will be taking to the track for 156 circuits. But 150 laps in the books here tonight. Logan Helton is your race winner and your champion of the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Sam, it's been a long season. We finally got to this point, and we finally have all the questions answered of who the champion was going to be. The answer being Logan Helton. I want to thank you for joining me here tonight and the entire season. It's been a great one.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be up in the booth with you, Seth, and congratulations to Logan Helton, the whole entire BG McLeod crew. They have been quick all season, and to cap it off like this, it's really the way they were hoping it would go.
We hope that everybody enjoyed our coverage here this evening. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night as we are going to be determining the champion for the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series, as well as determining the Final 4 for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go. They'll be at the Paperclip Short Track of Martinsville. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in this evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.